Hi, welcome to Foxglove Hollow. My name's Anne, and today we're going to paint a kitten. We're going to start off with a piece of paper and draw our kitten first. So let's fold that paper in half. Then we're going to fold it in half again. Now the most important part of this whole drawing is making sure that you have the fold on the left-hand side. That's because the kitten is going to be exactly the same both sides, so we only have to draw half of its face. When we open it up, we'll have a whole kitten face. If you draw it on the wrong side, if you have your fold on this side and we're drawing your kitten here, you're just going to end up with two half kitten faces. So let's make sure that fold is on the left. Now we're going to use our tool to draw circles. Today is going to be a quarter. You can use a quarter, you can use a loonie, you can use pretty much anything here. I'm going to use that. A film container, anything that's round. I think I'm going to use this film container because it's a bit bigger. So I'm going to put this film container lid, so it's about 3/4 of the way on the paper, and I'm going to trace around it, and then I'm going to put it right beside on the line, trace around that, and one on top of here, and one more. Trust me, this will make a kitten, like that. And we need one more on the top here. And we need one more, and that's going to be hanging about the same off as the one before. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Now, if I had used a quarter, see the difference in size? Our kitten face is going to be smaller. So if you wanted to draw a kitten that would fit on maybe an 8x10 canvas, just use a penny or a dime. Something smaller. This is going to be a fairly big kitten. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to think about the circle right here, and we're going to think of this as 12 o'clock. And so that would make right about there 11 o'clock. So I'm just going to go from here right out to here. Just like that. Then I can come down here. And I bet you can already guess what that is. Then we're just going to make a light line coming down here. Now don't worry that these are straight and they're not fuzzy like fur, because we'll put the fuzzy on it when we're painting. Let's draw the top of our cat's head. It'll come over this way, just like that. If we go to this circle here and we put a mark in it like that, we'll have a kitten's eyeball. And if we go to this part here, we come, see where they kind of separate right there? Two circles separate. We go in there and we just do that, and like that. We have kitten nose. And if we draw right on the crack of our paper there, and we come down, we're just going to make just like a little triangle right there. There we go. And so now we pretty much have a kitten face. So we're going to take a piece of carbon paper and we're going to duplicate this. So the important part here is to make sure your carbon paper is the shiny side up. So carbon paper has two sides. This is more of a dull side. This is the side that carries all the lead or the transfer. So let's put that on top of there, and we're just going to go around those lines like that, and then right around this one here, and around that part there. We can ignore all the other circles because we used them already for what we needed them for. There. And that's really all we need to do. So when we take it off, we look at the other side. Oh, missed this line here, didn't I? Let's put that on. So that means when I open it up, lo and behold, I have a cat face. And because it's symmetrical, I didn't have to draw it twice because we doubled up our painting, or doubled up our paper. So let's transfer this onto our canvas. So this canvas is an 11 by 14, and I think I'm going to put my kitten kind of like that. So I'll just take a piece of tape and I'm going to anchor it right there. And then I'm going to take my carbon paper. I've only got half a sheet here, so I'll have to move it if I remember, which sometimes I don't remember. Okay, I'm just going to put it on. Where am I going to put it? Should have got a bigger piece. There we go. So I'm going to trace over these ears like that. And around that eye. And around that eye. And the nose. Now I'm going to move my carbon paper down. And the mouth. And I guess I could probably get these edges of my kitten too. If I flip it up, there, I have the kitten. Excellent. So we're well on our way. There's our little kitten. So what we're going to paint first are some pink on the inside of the ears and a little bit of a pink nose. There's a bit of white paint. Get a little bit of red. And let's mix ourselves up a bit of pink. Just going to find a flat brush. There we go. Just a small flat brush will do. I'm going to scoop a bit of that white over here. And a little bit of that red. Make myself a pink. Maybe a little lighter than that. There we go. That's good enough. And then we're just going to color in that kitten's ear. Color in that whole triangle. And on both sides. Nothing fancy. There we go. If you like, you can take a little bit of red and drop it right in about there. Tap it around a bit, blend it in, so you get a nice little rosy center on your kitten's ear. And then blend it in a little bit so it's not quite so harsh. There we go. Just a little hint of a rosy color. And then let's switch brushes to something just a little bit smaller so we can get that nose painted. I'm going to use this pointed brush, round brush for the nose. A little bit more precision. Now we'll more than likely have to paint its nose in a little bit more. Touch it up a bit after we get the fur on. But for now, it's a good placeholder. There we go, one nose. Let's get fancy. Put a little bit of white on it too. There, good enough. And now what else do we need? We need some yellow for the eyes. And find something, probably that same pink brush will do. And we're going to take some of that yellow over here and grab yourself a little bit of white. And there we go. That'll make our yellow a bit stronger, not quite as transparent. And let's fill those eyes in. Don't worry if you go over the lines. We've got fur going on this kitten. So you can clean up any little oopses. There we go. That's good enough. So now what we need to do is get that base coat, and we're going to use the base of black on our kitten. And I'm going to get the biggest brush that I've got, which is this one right here, because I've got quite a bit of area to cover here. So I'm just going to go all the way around my kitten. I'm not making it furry yet. I'm just going to cover all the way around here. I'll come right down to the bottom as well. Remember, this is going to be, this outside edge isn't going to be really sharp like this, because we've got fur that's going on. I'll go as carefully as I can around that eye. I'm going to leave that little triangle there. I'm going to leave that white for now. It'll eventually go black, but if I color it in now, or I paint it in now, I'm going to lose my mark. So I'm just going to color around it. There we go. That's good enough. So now that we've got that part done, what we're going to do is give it a good dry. because we're going to paint in our background. We don't really want to smear that black through the background. There we go. That's good and dry. So now what I'm going to do is, you can choose whatever color you like for this background. I'm going to use this pretty blue. Well, that's probably way too much. That's okay. And then I'm just going to get my good old kitchen sponge, and this is one of the dollar store kitchen sponges, cut up into 6 pieces each, I think, or 8 pieces is what I do. And I'm just going to make myself a nice background in here. Paints up super fast with the sponge. I think I'll do 2 coats on this. Oops. As usual, I've got 7 zillion things on my desk rolling around. It's quite easy to go close to the sides. And don't worry if you go over it a little bit too, because we do have all that fur going on our kitten yet. Clean that up then. Super fast with a sponge. There we go. Now I'm going to want to put 2 coats on it because you can still see quite a bit of the canvas or sort of streak marks through that. And that's fine. I'll just hit it with blow dryer again. Let's get that second coat on. Oh yes, that's much nicer. Super fast with that sponge. I'm going to flip it up this way so I don't drag my hand through anything. And be generous with your paint. I think I might just nip around the outside edges of this too. With my sponge, might as well do that now. There we go. That should do it quite nicely. Pop the sponge over there, and I'm going to get a big paintbrush out again that we used for the fur. I'm going to load up with some black, and we're going to get that outside edge on now. So we know that the cat's fur will go out from its face this way. Oops, got some blue in there. Like that. We're trying to get rid of that harsh black line. It'll go out from its face, something like that. And see, if your paint's still wet, it'll mix with the background, which is quite nice. And then as it comes down this way, it's going to just kind of start to fluff lower, so it sort of lays flatter, like that. And it does this lovely blend with the background, so you get a really soft kitten. Now we're going to do that on the other side. This is up to you how long you want this cat's hair to be. My cats usually get rather out of control with their hairdos, and that's great because I do love a fluffy kitten. There we go. So that's nice and fluffy, so we don't have that harsh edge anymore. I'll bring that in a wee bit. And we'll need to do the same thing up here, but this hair is going to stick up. So we can stick this hair up this way. Something kind of like that. There, we don't want these weird bald ears though, do we? I'm going to dry this, because if I don't dry it now, I'm going to drag my sleeves through all this wet. There, I'm going to go back to that pointy brush. We're going to get some hair on our kitten's ears. So I'm going to come up the edge here. And I probably should have started at the other one so that I didn't drag my hand through it. There's an outside edge. And this inside edge, this outside edge here usually seems to be more of a definite edge, not so furry. And usually there's a little bit of like a fold that comes up in this sort of inside corner, like that. And then all this hair from the head kind of sticks up this way. And then that little ear is tucked right in there nicely. I'll bring a little bit more up this way as well. There we go. Now we just have to try to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to flip it up this way. Oops, it's still wet there. And this outside edge here is the nice smooth one. And this, oh gosh, I'll flip it up this way and tempt fate. Always move your canvas around. Don't feel you have to sit with it in the same spot all the time. So now we just need to make this part here fuzzy, making sure I don't have my arm in anything wet there. So we're going to come up this outside of this little kitten's ear this way. Nice and furry, like that. And then we're going to work that little folded section down this way. Trying to make it fairly even with the other side. A little bit fluffier right there. There we go. So you're almost done a kitten already. If you just want it to fill in its eyes black and leave it like this, you can pretty well do it. We've got some more fun stuff to go on this kitten. So we're going to go back to that big brush. And what we want to do is mix up take a little bit of white over here, mix a little bit of black into it, and we're going to make like a dark gray. Because my kitten's going to be probably more of a gray kitten. So they've got a nice dark gray, maybe a little darker even. And the nice thing about this is because we've got it painted black already, this is going to show up. It's going to look quite light actually against the black. But what it's going to do is it's going to give us a real fur look. So one thing that we have to remember as we're doing this is that all of this fur from pretty much this mouth down this way is going to be growing this direction. It's going to be growing down this way. So I'm going to just start with some brush strokes. And they're all going to go down this way. Like that. And the longer strokes that you make, the longer that kitten's fur looks. And you can see that this gray color is showing up because it's on top of black. If I hold my paintbrush quite high on the shaft, you get a much longer stroke for longer hair. So there, I'm going to go to about, let's say, maybe a little bit farther. Maybe about, right about there. And notice that I'm leaving some black still showing. You don't want to cover the whole thing. Now, the fur that's on this part of the face grows out this way. So we're going to start over here, and we're just going to drag some fur this way. As it comes down around the face, you can start bending it down. Careful around the eyes. And try not to line all your fur up in one direction, like a typewriter. There. And as it comes up this way, it'll stick more straight up. Almost looks a bit like those little Siamese cats. There we go. We're just going to come up the same way out this way. Let that fur start bending down when it gets into that area. And as it comes up to its ear, it'll stick up. It's kind of all radiating really out from its nose. Just carefully bring that in. Went over my nose a bit, but that's okay because I'm going to touch that up anyway. There we go. Something kind of like that. And then now we've just got this section here to work on, and this will be going up. Oh, and I guess we've got a bit on the ears. We better tuck that in with some fur too. There we go. And I like starting from the outside and working in. And that way the pointy end of your brush stroke will end up overlapping see that flat edge of the brush stroke as opposed to the pointy edge of the brush stroke right there. Pointy end will end up over top that flat edge. As I come down the nose here, I tend to get a little bit shorter strokes. And like I say, don't worry too much about that nose if you go off into it, because we're going to be painting it in again. There we go. You can really see our little kitten starting to take shape. I think I might even want a little bit furrier out here. Oh, that's a furry one. And because we've got the black underneath, that gray is going to show up. So what are we going to do now? That's almost like a black cat, really. I want my little kitten to be just a little bit more gray. So there we go. I've just added a little bit more white to that gray puddle, and we're going to do the same thing again. Remember, don't put so much on that you're covering up everything you've put down before. Same idea. Keep your brush strokes doing the same thing as what we've established with the pattern before. You don't have to load your paintbrush up that much either. It's quite quick. Let's shorter down on the nose a little bit. Drag some up over the ear. There we go. That's quite a fluffy kitten. It's looking very good. I can see just along here, I can see a little bit of a line. So I'll just sort of bridge that a little bit more. There we go. Now, I want this area right in here to be a little bit more pronounced. So I'm going to lighten up just a little bit more. Just adding that little bit more white. And right here, I'm going to start sort of building up that muzzle. Like that. And we could have a real droopy mustache here. Like that. And then the same thing over here. This will make that part of our kitten's face stand out a little bit more. Just that little bit lighter. Maybe a little bit down here on the chin too. There we go. And then we can do a little bit right up through here, and that's going to make that part of our kitten's face stick out a little bit farther. Like that. There we go. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to throw caution to the wind. We're going to do it again. Just a little bit lighter. Why not? You can keep going with this as long as you like. I think that's probably just about where I'd like to stop. So now we've got all that fur done. Let's get a little bit of shadowing onto that eye. And we're going to use a tiny, tiny touch of green. But we're not going to mix a blue and a yellow. We're going to mix black, just a little bit of it, and a yellow. And that's going to give us a green. The green we want for our cat's eye. Can you see that's turned green? I'm going to put a little tiny bit of water in it. And that's going to turn it into sort of what's called a glaze, which is it's just like watery paint, really, that you can still see the color underneath through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bit of that and I'm going to put that at the top part of that eye. I'm not going to worry too much about that that pupil that we've got. I'm going to put the top part of that eye there, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Try to keep a little bit rounded, like that. A little bit rounded like that. Put a little bit down at the bottom of the eye here too, like that, and like that. And then for good measure, I'm going to put a little bit more yellow in that eye. Just to make sure it's good and bright, just in that spot that we haven't just painted. Got a bit of that green mixed into it. No, it's just fine. There we go. We've got that in. And now what are we going to do? We can go back in with that little pointed paintbrush. We can fill that mouth in now. And we're going to fill that mouth in with black. Do I have enough black left? Yeah, it should be. Yep, there's some right there. Oop. Good enough. I'm just going to fill that little triangle in, because we know where it is now. Just like that. And wash my paintbrush off again. We can touch up that little nose. Oh, I didn't wash my paintbrush off very well. Got a bit of black in it. That's okay. Everything's fine. There we go. Let's touch up that little nose. Very pink little nose. So now we've got our little pink nose back, and we're just going to right here on the bottom of where we had our little black triangle, we're just going to put a little line so it has a bit of a pink lip, which is very cute. Wash that out again. Dry it off really well, because you don't want any of that white paint dripping back on, or any of the water dripping back on. And I'm just going to take this little bit of white, and I'm just going to put it like that on his nose, and put it like that on his lip. Just a little bit of a highlight. All right, now what do we need to do? That should be pretty much dry. We need a little bit more black. Because now we can color in those eyes. There we go. Makes quite a difference getting that pupil in. Try to make them even with each other. There we go. That's good. What else do we need to do here? We can do a little bit of nose adjustment. And we can also do a little bit of around the eye. So I like to go around the eye and make it point down into that corner. Around the top. And out that way slightly. And then fill this bottom part in. Like that. So you've got that little bit of a point at each side of its eye. Can you see it there? A little bit harder to see. There we go. So it's got a little point at that corner, and it's got a little point at that outside corner. And then we're going to try to replicate it at the other side. As close as you can do it. Without, of course, dragging your hand through it. And there he's looking out that way. Like that. Put a few little marks in here with our black paint. Water it down a little bit so we can get a little bit more definition in the whiskers around his muzzle. Like that. There we go. Maybe here. See, whenever you see one of these little blobs, like when there's nothing else, like it's just one big blob, you can go in and you can just add a few little brush strokes on it. It'll break it up. And it's not so much you're painting hair as you're painting between the hair. And maybe a little bit over here. All right, and we've got our eyes. We've got our little nose done. I might just give it a little bit more of a touch up around the edges here. Like that. That's good. And now we are on to whiskers. You're going to stick with that same brush. You're going to find yourself preferably some clean water. There we go. A little bit of clean water. I'm going to put it right there. A couple of scoops of that with my brush. And then I'm going to pick up some white paint, mix it into the water so that the white paint is quite liquidy. So you need liquidy paint because we're going to be painting some whiskers and they need a fine line. There we go. I'm going to dry that brush off. And then I'm going to turn my kitten like this so that I can put my brush down and bring my whiskers out this way. I always find it's easier to pull a long line, like a fine line towards me than it is to push it away. So there, do you see how I put my brush, how I rolled my brush up? Kind of rolled it in and twisted it so I've still got a point on my brush. And then right in here, I'm going to make a whisker. And I'm going to not put them all sticking out of the same hole. I'm going to put as many as I please. And I can make them crooked if I want them. What I'm doing is I'm dragging my hand so that my hand is supported. And then that way my lines are nice and thin. There we go. Some nice long whiskers. You can make them curled down, or you can make them with curly cues on them if you wanted to. These are quite long whiskers, these ones. And they can cross, that's fine. Some nice long whiskers. Then I'm going to turn up this way. I'm going to put some over his eyes too, because they do have whiskers over their eyes. There we go. And some on this one. There we go. And we've got a very, very cute little kitten. All that he needs now is just a little life. And so I'm going to take that same brush, that one I've dried it off. I'm going to dip it into my non-watery paint. And right here, I'm going to make a little dot. Same on the other side, like that. And I can put another one down here, and down here. And then we've got a gorgeous little kitten. I'm going to put one right here, and I'm going to put one right here. And I'm going to cover that up because I went too far. There we go. There, and now our kitten's got a lovely sparkle in its eyes. Looking a little surprised, but adorable. If you like, you can put a pattern on the background. I'm going to put some polka dots on it. Probably would have been better to do this pattern when it was before we put the whiskers on, but that's okay. We'll try and make these round. I'll spin this. Nice little polka dot pattern on the back. Why not? Oh, but whatever you like back here, you can leave it. Leave it plain. You put stripes on it if you wanted to, though I would suggest if you're going to do stripes, do them before you get your cat on it. Spin that around. That should make it rounder. Make one down here just to say I've got one off the corner. And there we go. One adorable little kitten. Thanks for painting with me.